Welcome back, listeners, to my little corner of the podcasting world to Beyond the Palette. This is Whitney Rosenson, your host and president of Art Dimensions, a fine contemporary art leasing and sales business. Today I'm chatting with Brady Smith, an exceptional creative from the Art Dimensions artist roster. Brady is an accomplished painter, muralist, illustrator, writer, and actor. He has written and illustrated 6 children's books, and he's working on more, including I'm Getting a Shark and Bug Sandwich, and You're Missing It, which he co-wrote with his wife. In this episode of Beyond the Palette, we'll be focusing mostly on Brady's artwork. He likes to refer to most of his paintings as Tex-Mex. They are bright, colorful, mostly festive pieces inspired by his time growing up in southern Texas. But others have perceived his work as anything from folk to abstract. Brady has had dozens of solo art exhibits in LA, Texas, and New York. I'm super excited to hear from him, and I know you all are as well, so let's go. Hi, Brady. How are you?
Wow, look at that introduction. I'm good. How are you? Thank you for that. I wish I was recording it. I could play it for my kids and maybe they'd be impressed. I don't know.
I'll save the recording for you. I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Well, thank you for the time and for welcoming all of us into your creative world. All right.
Absolutely.
For those listeners who don't know who you are, can you give us a snapshot of your journey to where you are today?
Wow. Yes, I grew up in Houston, Texas. I moved out here in 2000. I got my degree in fine arts from a college called Stephen F. Austin State University in Nacogdoches, Texas, which took me 2 years to learn how to spell. It's the oldest town in Texas. It is famous for its lumberjack and forestry program, not art. So I was
Go figure.
yeah, go figure, right? But I got my degree there, moved home back to Houston, Texas, started a freelance illustration design company. I did that for about probably a year or two. I had a few art shows. I did a lot of freelance work for just companies that would hire me to draw stuff. And I was literally waiting for a painting to dry, watching Maury Povich, finding out who was the dad of whatever baby was on the show, and I was bored out of my mind. All of my buddies had real jobs, insurance jobs. They were gone 8 to 5. And I was like, you know what? I feel like I just need to mix it up. So I loaded up my Ford Explorer at the time and drove out and threw a Hail Mary and landed in Los Angeles. And then it took about 3 years for me to get my feet kind of planted. Did a lot of odd jobs, had little bitty art shows here and there, and then started eventually working. That's the Cliff Notes version.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. Um, okay, so how did you, I mean, you sort of discussed this just now, but how did you start your career as an artist? What was the first like project you recall?
You know what? I actually learned, this is funny. I learned a very valuable lesson early on, because, being able to draw, just the physical act of being able to pick up a, pen or a crayon or a pencil and draw something. I kind of refer to myself as a Ford F-150 when somebody needs to move. You know what I mean? Like I can help move a couch. Everybody needs help moving. Everybody needs help with art. So anytime for my entire life, if somebody's like, hey, for the pepper rally in 7th grade, we need a giraffe, I was the guy. So I've always drawn. When I went to school and I got my degree and I graduated, that's when I was like, I have this ability. I'd rather do something that I'm able to do than just get a normal job and start making money. So it was hard, and I had to kind of figure things out from the get-go. But I've always, my whole life, I've worked for myself. Um, and I learned early on when you would get a client, if it would be like, 93.1 country FM in Houston, Texas, or whatever it was, they would hire me to draw something. I would always ask them what their budget is because I never knew. I mean, I was a kid and I didn't know what the right, that's not what they taught. And if they
Right.
did, I just didn't pay attention. How to, bill yourself or how to make your living as an artist. So there were several times that I would really, really underbid because drawing to me, I didn't think it was that difficult. I could just do it. So I'd be like, yeah, but I don't know, $70. And I remember a very valuable lesson where this one person, I think an ad exec was like, oh, wow, 70. Wow. Okay. Well, we had it budgeted for $3,500. And at the time, when you're 21 years old, $3,500 is a lot of money. And not that I'm throwing shade at $3,500 now, but back in the day,
Right.
when you're single and you're a kid, like game changer. So from that moment on, and I hope I'm sort of answering your question, but I learned that I always ask what their budget is before I start something. That way we're just clear. And as a artist by profession, I'm not shorthanding myself.
That's great. That's great to know. Okay, which leads to my second question, or my next question, which is, what would you recommend to a new artist or to an emerging artist or an emerging illustrator, let's say?
Um, well, that's a great question and a hard question because I feel like so much has changed since I started, social media and all that stuff. I mean, now you have a platform where you can get your work out there and people could see it instantaneously. You know, 30 years ago, wow, I'm aging myself, but you know, it was a completely different situation. What I would do is I would go to this is just what I did because I didn't know any better, but I would go to restaurants or go to lobbies and hotels or go to places where there was a lot of blank room. And I had an inventory of paintings. And I was like, hey, can I exhibit my work here? And then I would just leave, this was before even websites. And I would leave my number and people would call me if they were interested in painting. So I think for emerging artists today, they could probably teach me a thing or two about how to get work out there. I feel like I have an established base of people that know my work, and again, social media, people can easily find me. But when I first started off, Whitney, I mean, it was literally just uh, knocking on doors and hitting the ground running. I guess the only advice I could give to any artist emerging or you know later in
Established.
life is just to create. I say create art daily, every single day. I do these. I have a day planner that every day of my life for the last 25 years, I've illustrated literally every single thing that's ever happened. And, that's making art. I go in my studio and I will put a brush to paint every single day. So that would be my, I guess my only advice is just to not sit idle, you know,
And have a daily practice.
every single day. I mean, my wife and I have young kids and we try to communicate to them that if they want to get better at something, I never say the word perfect. I don't believe that that word is, a reality. I think everybody can strive to be better.
Yeah.
And that's what we try to, teach our kids where my son, he's playing little league baseball and he doesn't understand why some of the other kids are better than him. And, we're like, well, some of them started playing a lot younger and some of them probably play every single day. And that's how you get better at anything. So even with me being 52 years old and art, I I'm blown away that I can still be surprised or figure out something kind of cool and new. And I would never have that realization or that epiphany, if you will, if I didn't get in there and just fuss around, and
And,
paint. So
and
that would be it.
yeah,
Just do it daily.
that's great advice.
I think a
Um,
kid just walked behind me.
I s- All right, is the daily practice what you credit your success as an artist to? Or or what else would there be? There probably,
Um,
I don't know.
you know, That's a great question. I say sure. Only because I don't know another answer to that. I think that, look, you learn by doing, right? You create by doing. So if I wasn't doing, then yes, nothing would happen. So absolutely, yeah. Daily discipline, and it's that whole saying, put the first foot forward, right? I always say, put your butt in the chair, because that's when you will start to work
Generate
and make
ideas.
things happen and generate art.
That's great. That's great. All right, a more fun questions coming up. Well, okay.
These are all great. I think I'm going to make a t-shirt, butt in chair. That might be my new thing.
Okay. Have I inspired that? I love that.
You have.
Do you ever have painter's block? And if so, how do you deal with it?
I think I do. Painter's block, writer's block, all that stuff. And the only way that I have learned to get through it is, again, just to sit down and get through it. I'm not that kind of person that will just get up frustrated and walk away. I'll keep on trucking, if you will, because that it goes back to what I said a second ago. That's when you sometimes, and not all the time, but sometimes you'll surprise yourself. I feel like a majority, if not all of the work that I do, being a big canvas or a mural or characters for a book, every single one of those comes out from doodling. Absolutely, just sitting down and doodling and surprising myself.
Okay. Okay. Another fun question. Describe your aesthetic, if you can, in 3 words.
My aesthetic.
I have 3 words that I can think of to describe yours.
I would love to hear it, and then I'll either completely agree or add on to it.
All right. Vivid or
I like
vibrant.
it. Yep. Vibrant works.
Um, bold
I'll take bold.
and um I was gonna say Tex-Mex, but that's your term, not mine. So
I the Tex-Mex thing comes from obviously growing up in Texas and being influenced by wonderful art south of the border, if you will. I love vibrant and bold. Those are great. And I would throw in joyful.
yeah.
The reason being is that I don't want to get all negative Nelly, but there is some pretty dark stuff that goes on in the world, especially as of late. And I do not want to contribute to that. I want people to look at my art, and I want them to walk away feeling, happier or smiling. Because I
I
feel like
know
there's
I
enough
do.
dark. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I said I know I do.
Yeah, well, thank you. I just feel like there's enough dark stuff out there, and I don't want to be a part of it. I would rather paint bright, happy colors and enough detail in especially my murals, where people can stare at them a long time and always hopefully see something new. So yeah, vibrant, bold, and joyful. I'll
Love
take
it.
those.
That's great. All right, you just mentioned murals. Tell us about one or more of your great murals. I know there's one at LA Ale Works.
Yes.
Okay.
I've done 9 of them. The first one I did was in 2019. Funny, very short story, but a friend of mine that my wife and we met this couple on our year anniversary. And, you're just kind of, you're somewhere for a week on vacation to see these people over and over. We became friends and we kept in touch. And he works in real estate. And in 2019, he texted me and he's like, "Hey man, I have a new building in Salt Lake City. It's got a giant blank wall. I'd love for you to paint a mural on it. Do you do murals?" And I was like, "Absolutely." I had never done a mural in my life. I figured, it's the same thing as painting. It's just a lot bigger. How hard can it be? Turns out pretty hard. You're hanging from scaffolding. you're carrying buckets of paint and brushes. And I joked with my wife when I got home that it was like that show Survivor, except just with paintbrushes.
Mhm.
107 degrees. The sun was constantly, just so happened to be, it would, rise and set, but never move from this particular wall.
Yeah.
So it was a crash course in mural painting. But I ended up really digging it because a lot of the stuff that I do, Whitney, with books, especially as I'm at my desk, with paintings, I'm in my studio. This, a mural, you're outside, you're in the elements, it's large scale, you're making a mess, big broad strokes. It's just a lot of fun, just getting down and dirty. So I really ended up enjoying it. And then one thing led to another. Somebody, again, social media, somebody saw it. They're like, we'd love a mural. And then it's all back to the, okay, well, how big, what colors, what are you thinking? What's your budget?
Hmm.
And all that. And then cut to, again, I've done 9 since 2019. And I'm always on the lookout for another one because, again, I enjoy doing it. And it's something where it's so physical painting a mural because you're bending down on your knees, you're climbing ladders, you could be on scaffolding, you're sweating profusely. It feels like you've really kind of done something hard and magnificent is the best way for me to, like, when I drive home after finishing a mural, I'm exhausted.
Hmm.
Um, and you don't really get that feeling from making art. Like, you're not physically spent. Painting a mural, I'm whipped, but
Yeah.
it feels great because I feel like I've really done something special and that, a lot of people will see.
Okay, so this makes me, your work is very detailed. And I just want to mention to the listeners, you can see Brady's paintings, murals, videos, great doodles on bradysmith.com. But they're very detailed. So how do you know when a mural or a painting is finished?
When I filled up the space.
Okay.
When I had filled up the entire space. The fun thing, and I'm glad you asked that question because it reminded me something. With my books, there's a lot of chefs in the kitchen, and it's a very methodical process. Like, from page one to the final page, so much thought goes into it, so much is planned. Because it has to be. It's a book.
Yeah.
With the murals, it's a mental vacation for me because 99% of the time, whoever hires me to paint one, I'll just kind of have a loose idea. I'll say, these are the colors I'm thinking. These are the figurative objects and subject matter that I'm thinking.
Hmm.
And they're like, sweet. Or they'll have a few notes, but whatever. When I get to start it, it it's not thought out. It's not methodical. It's very, like, loose, spontaneous. I just go for it. Most of the time, the stuff that I have laid out that I want it to look like, it changes because it's all in the moment. And that to me is what's so much fun. Because I don't really have a plan. I know that sounds odd. I'm just going from point A to point B. I'm filling up the space. I know what colors I want to use, but then I truly make it up as I go along. And I feel like, not to get all hippy dippy and stuff, but I feel like there's an energy to that where at least I can feel it, where it is like just a lovely, spontaneous, energetic, white, buzzy kind of deal where you look at it and you're like, wow, that is wonderful chaos. At least that's what I hope people feel.
Oh my God, I love that saying, wonderful chaos. And I was going to ask you, what do you hope people will get from your paintings? And you just explained it. So that was fantastic.
Yeah, a mental break, and a
Yeah.
and a
And
smile. I mean, I paint, like, narwhals eating pizza and and dolphins driving hot dog cars. I mean, it's all fun, whimsical, silly stuff because that's, I mean, my wife jokes that I'm basically just a big, kid. And I agree. Yeah.
Well, they're so joyful, your pieces. What would you say is your favorite aspect about being an artist?
Um, the freedom,
Okay.
I am able to take my kids to school in the morning. I'm able to pick them up in the morning. I'm able to go uh skateboarding with them at the drop of a hat. Definitely the freedom, I was meeting my son and I were meeting another dad and his son at the skate park, and we had it planned for a week. And 15 minutes before we were there, he texted me. He's like, I'm sorry, I can't make it. Something to work, blah, blah, blah. And I had to explain to my son, I'm like, we're not going to meet him now. And he's like, why? And I'm like, well, the dad has to work. And he's like, but you work. And I'm like, yeah, but it's different. And, this is kind of actually a neat conversation we're about to have because a lot of dads aren't able to, at the drop of a hat, go skateboarding with you. And I feel very blessed and incredibly lucky that I am able to. So
Oh,
yeah, it
great
was kind of
conversation.
I'm sorry.
That's just a great conversation. That's a great connection between you and your son.
Yeah, yeah. I hope he I mean, he's still very young, but I had the conversation too, where I was like, look, if one day when you're grown up and you want to do skateboarding at 3 o'clock or whatever, if you work for yourself, you can, you
Right.
know? So yeah,
So the freedom.
the freedom,
All right. What's a hard thing or what's the hardest thing about being an artist?
the freedom.
Okay, can you explain?
Absolutely. There's nobody cracking the whip except my wife for me to do dishes. But other than that,
It's you.
that's it. You are 100% on your own as an artist if you're self-employed, which is a beautiful thing, but it really makes you need to be incredibly disciplined because nothing is going to happen unless I'm making it happen. There are days where, like anything in life, you're just like, "Ugh, I don't feel like it." But I think over the course of however many decades, really gotten good at, I'm not good at sitting still. So I always make myself do something. So that would be it. There are months where you're like, oh my gosh, where is my paycheck coming from? Where is it going to, you know? And then there's other months where things are phenomenal.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I've never, ever, ever had consistent income. I've never had that uh, sensation, if you will, of knowing where and exactly how much and exactly when I'm going to get a paycheck. Is that going to throw you off, or is that okay? The phone ringing.
Oh, I no, that's fine. I don't even hear it.
Okay.
And I'll
Um,
edit it out. Don't worry.
Okay. So, all my buddies in college who have like these big jobs and they go to work, they go home, they don't think about work,
Right.
they do whatever they do, then they go back, and then they work, and then they come home, and that's their cycle. I've never had that.
Well, work
Uh,
when you're self-employed, you're kind of thinking about it all the time.
Never stops.
Never stops. I know.
No. And like for example, last night I'm working on this new book. I worked until 9 o'clock at night. Not that that's late or anything, but all my buddies have been home for 4 hours, and they've turned it off and they're doing what they do. But granted, I guess it all balances out because I can go skateboarding with my kid at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So,
Yeah.
but the inconsistency sometimes can be challenging, but I think that ultimately it's the payoff is even greater.
Oh, okay. And that is great advice for an emerging artist and an established artist to keep the faith, you know.
Keep the faith, and nobody's going to do it for you.
Yeah.
That's where it's at.
All right. I want to wrap up a little bit. I have a fun question. to wrap up with, which, well, I have two questions actually. If you could collaborate with one other artist,
Wow.
would you, and who would it be?
Alive or dead, or does it matter?
Either, doesn't matter.
It's a great question. Alive,
Okay.
a buddy of mine who is also a fellow Texan. He lives in New York now. He's an illustrator, and he's just a great dude. His name's Rob Wilson. I would love to make some art with Rob, and I know we easily could. I've never even thought about it until right now, but I love his I love everything about him. He's just a good person, and he makes fantastic stuff. So Rob Wilson,
Okay.
a live artist and deceased artist. Wow.
You don't have to list a
I
deceased.
have a whole bunch. I mean, I've always loved Kandinsky. I've always loved Moreau. I've always loved Picasso. Um,
Yep.
I love
Now,
Keith
now,
Haring.
well, so Keith Haring, so your work is, I don't want to get off on a huge tangent, but your work and Keith Haring's work is similar. But what about
Yep.
Kandinsky's work? I mean, Kandinsky's work is so abstract. What about it
Yep.
do you love? I'm
I
curious.
love I just love the use of colors, and I love how abstract it was. Because I mean, look, I haven't been in an art history class in a very long time, but if I remember correctly, Kandinsky was one of the very first ones to really just kind of throw it all out there
Mhm.
and make abstract art. Again, it's just kind of like the way he paints. Now, I don't want to take anything away from Kandinsky, not that he's around to be insulted, but it just seems very fun and off the cuff, and abstract colors and shapes, and
Yeah, I agree.
just it just has this whole, again, energy about it, which
Yeah.
I love to look at it.
Okay. Um, all right, and my last question. I hate that this is the last question because it's so fun to chat with you, but
This is fun. It doesn't have to be.
okay, well, let me just throw this out there.
Let's
If
hear
you
it.
were if you were granted $1 million for an art project, what would you do?
Wow. Well, I guess it just depends on what I have to work with. I mean, I think it'd be fun to convert an entire uh, building, a full, like a place that you can walk through, a
Like a
real
department store?
experience, and do like an inside outside full mural, right? Like a warehouse, something gigantic. That would be cool. Um,
Cool.
I guess that would be my answer as far as art. The book thing too. I mean, I would love to just keep on trucking with my books, but that, I mean, knock on wood, that's happening right now anyway. So
So
I'll
good.
say a big airport hangar warehouse sized inside outside mural.
Oh, I would love to see that. Please do that.
Well, somebody give me a
Okay.
million bucks.
So
Let's
yes,
do
we have to
this.
find $1 million. All right. Now I'm gonna say this is my last question.
Okay.
What inspires you to paint? It's a vague
Um,
question, I know, but is it your family? Is it that plus this inner child that needs to come out? I don't know. What is it? If you want to say, you don't even have to
no,
say.
no, no. I definitely, I'm just trying to think the best way to put it. I mean, I think it's just the daily challenge of being creative. I always say that I just want to live a creative life. That's it. I want to make art. I don't care what kind of art. I just want to always be in the process of creating something, because I do feel like, we're all here for a limited, if not short, period of time. And if I can do something that makes somebody think outside the box or smile when they look at something that I've created, then I feel really content and good about that.
Mm,
So my inspiration is just the daily process of creation.
so well said.
Thank
Brady,
you.
thank you. This was fantastic.
I
Uh,
had fun. This was
oh, I'm
great.
glad. I'm glad. I'm also glad that we got a chance to connect because it's been a while since we've spoken. Okay, listeners, please take a look at the Art Dimensions site, which is artdimensionsonline.com, to learn more about contemporary art leasing and sales. You can also check out Brady's page on the site under artists on the homepage. Look for his name and click the thumbnail, and that will take you to Brady's page. And to see even more of his incredible paintings, murals, doodles, so much cool stuff, collaborations he's done with companies, go to bradysmith.com. It's BRADYSMITH.com. Our Instagram handles are at Art Dimensions and at Brady Smith here, HERE. So be sure to follow us there. All right, before we sign off, is there anything else you'd like the listeners to know about you?
I think you did a phenomenal job and I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. I want to thank you for that. Thank everyone for tuning into the show. And I wish each and every one of you and Brady a productive and fruitful month and happy creating.
I love that. Happy creating.